come, whoever you are.
Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
That's great. Everybody together. Come, whoever you are. Wonder, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
They're such powerful images, and they evoke so many different feelings. I needed time to let them come to me and feel my own tears stinging the backs of my eyes. Wonder what you're feeling. It seems to me that watching those images, we have feelings of sadness and fear and anger and curiosity. They're such powerful images. I don't know if any of you have lost a home to fire, but those of you who have know the devastation that we were just looking at in a really personal way. I'm sure many of us watched the horror of the fires in California last year, watching whole neighborhoods just be wiped away, be consumed. And it's been an intense month. Not that it hasn't been an intense couple of years already, but it was an intense month just this last month, witnessing churches, 3 churches burning in St. Landry, Louisiana, and then Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, as Dorothy mentioned. So it's actually Rick Fortner, our music director, who said I should preach about this, and I was grateful for the opportunity to think through what all of this really means to me and how it impacts me. I'm sure the rest of you were texting and looking on Facebook for people's posts and thoughts, and social media got really heated in the midst of all of this over the last couple of weeks. The best text I got, I'm looking for Nicole. The best text I got was from our own Nicole. It came among the other texts to me saying, "Have you seen Notre Dame is burning?" But I hadn't seen when those texts started coming to me. But my heart fell when I looked online and I saw the flames shooting through the roof of the cathedral in a city where I have lots and lots of family. As my mind tried to make sense of what I was seeing and what I was seeing, just trying to make sense of what I was seeing and wondering, is this another attack? Is this terrorism? Is this an accident? Is this the beginning of another war like 9/11? What's going to be left in the cathedral? Asking myself all those questions. Are those gorgeous, huge rose stained glass windows going to stand? And then with the rest of you, I learned more details, that it was an accident, that the windows were still there. And we all began to wonder with Nicole, who sent me this text. The Notre Dame Cathedral burning made me think about falling idols, institutions, organizations, and people. That was her text. The Notre Dame Cathedral burning made me think about falling idols, institutions, organizations, and people. And I thought that was so interesting. What does it mean when cathedrals and creeds and idols and icons come crashing down the way they have been recently, week after week after week? What does it mean for the future? And what does it mean for us now? It seems that daily, a local leader, a national star, an actor, a comedian, a performer, a preacher, somebody we looked up to and put on a pedestal and revered and received their teachings, sometimes a CEO or a politician. It's a little less surprising when it's CEOs and politicians, but it's still profoundly disappointing and destabilizing. It seems that daily, a powerful person is uncovered, discovered, disgraced. What does that mean? It certainly challenges us to sift through the smoke and the rubble to find what's worth preserving and protecting and rebuilding. How do we discern what to protect and rebuild? And as I was thinking and processing this week, I couldn't help but think about some of those pictures we saw, what happened in 1921 in Tulsa during the race massacre, when churches and homes and businesses were burned. I want to read from a really important document here. Buck Colbert Franklin, who was a lawyer here in Tulsa, he was John Hope Franklin's father. He typed on 10 pages of legal manuscript his eyewitness account of what happened on May 31st in 1921. This is what he wrote. He wrote about when lurid flames roared and belched and licked their forked tongues into the air. When smoke ascended the sky in thick black volumes and amidst all the planes, now a dozen or more in number, still hummed and darted here and there with the agility of natural birds of the air. The sidewalks were literally covered with burning turpentine balls, he writes. I knew all too well where they came from, and I knew all too well why every burning building first caught from the top. He continues, I paused and waited for a time to escape. Where is our splendid fire department with its half-dozen stations? He wondered. I asked myself, is the city in conspiracy with the mob? And sadly, the answer this morning in Tulsa, as in much of America, when churches burn, the answer is yes. The powers that be are complicit. And we who are witnesses are seeing and smelling the deep and destructive roots of racism in the American psyche and in the American body politic. I imagine you've heard it said before that racism is called America's original sin. Hundreds upon hundreds of Black churches have been burned to the ground in this country, evidence of the greed and the guilt and the shame used to justify deadly violence. While in Paris, Notre Dame burning meant, strangely appropriately enough, an Easter celebrated in the ashes. So appropriate for the highest holy day of the year. As the roof burned and the great spire fell and caved in, it felt like, at first, like one of those paradoxical times, like 9/11, when only good could come from such a tragedy. As Parisians knelt in the streets, sang Ave Maria, and cried, not just Catholics and not just Christians and not just the French, but people of all faiths and no faith. People from all around the world seemed to unite in shock and sympathy. For centuries, Notre Dame has been a place that has welcomed wanderers and worshipers and lovers of leaving, a sacred place that has embraced people of all faiths, all cultures, all classes, all colors, people from all around the globe, a holy site. A holy site withstanding wars and weather and time, notwithstanding France's shift to becoming more secular, standing for 850 plus years. It had stood for so long, it appeared to be permanent, suggesting the eternal. To watch her burning was for many to witness the impossible happening. And then in 2 days, nearly $1 billion were pledged to rebuild the old, medieval, European, Catholic cathedral. In the age of global community and instant, constant communication, the local tragedy, what would have been a local tragedy, quickly became a shared trauma, forcing us to feel how closely we are connected. Forcing us to feel how closely we are connected and how much it hurts that some places and some people are protected and supported while others are not. From a Facebook post, this is from a Facebook post, the concern and dismay is being felt by many around the world. Imagine that the damage to this historic and religious site was caused by a pipeline running through it, by fracking, or due to development. Shock and dismay are the type of feelings indigenous people feel when our lands and sacred sites are damaged and threatened. That was from Casey Duma, an attorney. And then in the news, I read about a Ms. Kusler from Montana who said that the fire hadn't really affected her. She wasn't religious. She knew that losing the long history of this historic building was horrible, but she couldn't help but try to put the loss of the building in a perspective she could understand and relate to. And she writes, as a white American, it's tough to grasp the significance of this because we don't have the kind of multifaceted historic monument in the United States. However, Native Americans absolutely have history that extends that far back. And the United States has personally set their Notre Dames on fire for hundreds of years with destruction. So maybe that puts this in perspective for me a bit, she wrote. How do we put these churches burning at the same time in perspective in our own lives today? When one tweet changed what it meant for all of us, all around the world, one tweet. My heart is broken over the loss of Notre Dame. The Catholic Church is also one of the world's wealthiest entities. If you are going to donate money to rebuild a church this week, I implore you to make it to the Black churches in St. Landry Parish. Yes. Megan Romer from Lafayette, Louisiana had been trying to get attention for weeks, if you followed her story. She'd been trying to get attention for the first church that burned, Greater Union Baptist Church. But then when 2 more local churches burned, and then Notre Dame, she tweeted even more insistently. She says all she could think was, these are Black churches being burned, implying that we all know, or we all should know, about the long, painful history of burning Black churches in the Deep South. Not just in Tulsa, untold numbers, hundreds of Black churches burned with the intention to murder and silence and scare and control and eliminate a people. The fires in Louisiana, we know now, were set intentionally. And the fire in France was an accident. The 3 targeted churches had been active in St. Landry Parish for over 100 years, and the families worshipped in the buildings for generations. After Romer's tweet went viral, others added their voices. It's terrible what happened, but 3 Black churches were purposely burnt down because of hate. Let's not forget to be even more outraged about that. And more voices joined the chorus. Students, people from all across the country. Why are we not as worried about these sites being hurt that are historic to our minority groups rather than our majority groups? I'm sure you've been feeling and wrestling with these questions today. The tweets went viral, and within hours, as you know, donations to the churches in St. Landry surged, jumping from about $300,000 nearly a week into the campaign to $1.5 million practically overnight. That shift in awareness, that shift in consciousness, that coming together, realizing we're connected, is part of the moral of this story. But church is about more than money, if it's really church. Congregants at several churches in Louisiana said they've never worshiped anywhere else, and that they were struggling to grasp that a source of solace and constancy in their lives was gone. All the work that's been put into that and the history that it has, it was heartbreaking. The Reverend Gerald Toussaint of Mount Pleasant said, following the fire at his church on April 3rd, "But just because you burn a building doesn't mean you can destroy the church. Just because you burn a building doesn't mean you destroy the church. Because we know, as Dorothy said, the church is the people. The building or the cathedral is designed and built to inspire us. It's built to move us and to motivate us to remember our relationships with our highest values, to give ourselves to the greatest good we can imagine, to commune with our God." I was leading a young couple in a premarital session just this weekend through our church here and brought them into the sanctuary and told them one of the things I love about this sanctuary is that there are no symbols. So each and every person gets to bring his or her own, their own faith into this space and commune with their own God. So when we watch churches burning in 2019, we know what it means. We know that any church building, any cathedral, even our beloved church downtown that's living in our imaginations right now, is only a symbol of our faith. We know that all buildings for worship all around the world are expressions of a universal human longing for the sacred and the spiritual, expressions of our longing and our belonging to the greatest mystery of all. But they're not the longing itself. As I witness the churches burning and our responses, and then our people's responses to the responses, I notice that hope and help travel around the world just as quickly as hate. Hope and help travel around the world just as quickly as hate. And I observe that there's plenty of money to feed and educate the children of the world, to provide medical care for them, to protect the planet's wilderness, and to change and adapt our energy sources. There's plenty of money. And I'm renewed in my faith that from the ashes, life rises again. And that our longing for the holy and wholeness is impossible to destroy, no matter what people do. The first time I went to Notre Dame, I was a little girl. I was with my family. And when it was time to leave, no one could find me. I had been drawn ever deeper into the recesses of the awesome, quiet, arching heights and luminous windows of that sacred place and space. I felt like I wanted to stay there forever. So when my mother told me it was time to go and kind of dragged me by the hand, I kind of remember walking as if in a trance into the world, into that world, this world. That longing to stay closely in touch with the sacred is at the core of my call to ministry. I remember when years ago, some of you might remember too, when Reverend Tamara Labach told us about how she fell to the ground in Notre Dame, fell onto her knees as if struck by the Holy Spirit, and how that moment has been a touchstone ever since in her religious life. When and where have you felt intimately connected to the source of your being and belonging? Take a minute to answer that question inside yourself. When and where have you felt intimately connected to the source of your being and belonging? That place is your cathedral. Those places, there might be more than one, those are your houses of worship. And whether they still exist or not, whether they are standing or not, their power and their potential live on in you as living, breathing sanctuaries of light and love. You are the ones in your own lives with the clarity and the courage to know what needs to be rebuilt in your own life, to know what needs rebuilding and why. What does it mean when churches are burning? What does it mean when cathedrals and creeds and idols and icons come crashing down? What does it mean for the future? And what does it mean for us now? For me and for many of us here in this community of All Souls, it means it matters more than ever that we know what we're building here every day. It means our faith isn't in a building, even a move to a new building. It means our faith lives in our longing to commune with the divine. Our faith is alive inside of us. It's in our relationships. It's why we stay at the table and speak the truth in love together, so we can discover and uncover and recover this liberating faith. Here is where all souls come together and remember a cathedral of the human spirit can never be burned down. A cathedral of the human spirit can never be burned down. Here is where we remember to use the power we have, even if it is just the power to tweet, for good. We use our power for good. Here is where we turn awareness of racism and discrimination and injustice into compassionate action. Here is where we lament and grieve, so our sadness doesn't smolder into rage, where we allow our tears to soften and prepare the ground to build something new and true. In my installation a month or so ago, Marlon said we are building a cathedral for the human spirit, for freedom's unfolding. Dorothy has told us what church means to her, and I want to leave you with a short story this morning. A traveler came upon 3 men working. He asked the first man what he was doing, and the man said he was laying bricks. He asked the second man the same question, "What are you doing?" And he said he was putting up a wall. When he got to the third man and asked him what he was doing, the man said, or I'm going to change it and say the woman said, she was building a cathedral. They were all doing the same thing, but one knew what she was doing. And that makes all the difference in the world. We know what we're doing here together. Our vision 2021, and our vision of the future is to build a cathedral to the free spirit and to freedom unfolding for all people. And a cathedral of the human spirit can never be burned to the ground. Amen.
You're my brother, you're my sister, so take me by the hand. Together we will work until we're done. There's no foe that can defeat us. me by the hand. Together we will work. I love your voices, yes. There's no foe that can defeat us when we're walking side by side. As long as there is love, we will stand.
Hey, we're so happy you're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
LOVEBB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256, or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed
and be a blessing.